now there's 200 Marines sitting in the dirt looking at you with their guns still in their hands, and now the sun's going down and you're on this base, you're like in front of a mountain town. So these guys, these comics, rightfully so, get like, they get in their heads. I see it happen. I see the new guys get scared,
Your stories, your service, your community. This is the Tango Alpha Lima podcast.
Alphas, welcome to the Tango Alpha Lima podcast. We're here to engage today's veterans through authentic stories, education, and entertainment, and build a virtual community that celebrates continued service and supports the American Legion's mission. We're glad you're here to be a part of that community. Stacy, you have a Legion lowdown to share with the Alphas today. What do you got for us?
Formation!
File in!
Yes, sir. Our guest, Michael D'Angelo, provides free comedy shows to the military and first responders, of course. He wants to do this, and he does this to boost camaraderie and morale and to provide entertainment for folks. Sounds right up the American Legion's alley, which, hey, here's a Legion lowdown for y'all Alphas in the Brunswick, Maryland area. The Stedman Keenan American Legion Post 96 is hosting a free comedy show in February. Is your post hosting a free event? I want to know. We want to know. Send us what you got coming up, and maybe we'll give you a shout out on the podcast. If you're looking for fun events in your area, check out VetTix. They secure tickets to sporting events, concerts, performing arts, education, family activities, you name it. It's across the nation. You sign up, it's free online. Then you search what's happening in your area, request tickets, then you pay a small delivery fee. The rest is absolutely free. All your tickets are free. It's absolutely wonderful. So visit vettix.org and you can get signed up.
My brother-in-law uses that religiously. He goes to bands that he's never even heard of because the tickets are just so cheap. Definitely check that out. Today's guest, I'm so excited for this. Vegas chaos, family instability. He grew up fast, and even homelessness shaped his early life. Born and raised in Las Vegas, Michael D'Angelo found structure and purpose in the Marine Corps, serving from 2008 to 2013. That experience gave him what he now brings to the stage, which is Calm Under Chaos. He's a creator of Rapid Fire Comedy Tour, performing specifically for active duty service members and veterans across the country. His comedy is dark, raw, and unfiltered, pulled straight from his life in the Marine Corps. His deployments, and the moments most people don't even dare joke about. So, you're going to want to check this episode out because this guy's hilarious.
And after we talk to Michael, we'll, get Stacy's engine going with diving into some Reddit rabbit holes on how you don't want to miss that, on how the American Legion can improve recruitment of younger veterans. So this is really important. We break down a military myth versus fact about the notch in dog tags. And we close out with a buck stops here segment, examining whether expert voice is actually worth it for veterans.
Okay, Alpha, stick around. We'll be right back with Michael D'Angelo right after the break.
This year we have a golden opportunity. No, make that a red, white, and blue opportunity to do something truly special.
That's right, Commander. This year America is celebrating its 250th birthday.
And the American Legion family will be leading the nationwide celebrations.
The American Legion Family USA 250 Challenge is a year-long celebration honoring our nation. You can participate in the challenge by choosing one or more of the three categories.
The three categories are community service, mental wellness, and physical activity.
Whether you are doing one, two, or all three categories, you are making a difference in the lives of veterans and their families.
Visit legion.org/USA250 to learn more and register for $30. For your registration fee, you will get to choose a commemorative tech shirt, and your donations support the American Legion Veterans and Children Foundation.
Be a part of what makes our nation great.
Help us celebrate America.
Join us in the USA 250 Challenge.
Today's guest grew up fast in Las Vegas chaos before finding structure in the Marine Corps, serving from 2008 to 2013 and learning what he calls calm under chaos. He now brings that edge to the stage as the creator of Rapid Fire Comedy Tour, delivering raw, unfiltered comedy for service members and veterans nationwide. Michael, we love having you here. Thanks so much. Welcome to the Tango Alpha Lima podcast, brother.
Morning. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
It's so awesome to have you, Michael. I want to start out by getting to know your background a little bit. Obviously, everywhere I've read says you're from Vegas, and things were a little bit chaotic. Can you talk to me a little bit about what life was like before you chose to enlist, and then tell me a little bit about, of all branches, why the Marine Corps?
So from Las Vegas, and growing up, I was a street kid, plain and simple. My home life was pretty unstable. My parents were kind of chaotic. They were struggling with their own kind of drug addiction stuff, and just wasn't at home. And I ended up out in the streets all day, every day, running around. Thankfully, I got lucky. I never went to jail or anything like that. I was just kind of a little smart ass running around with, a bunch of other little smart asses, and we were, doing kid stuff for a while, mostly just, shopping carts and breaking windows and stealing candy bars, stuff like that. And as we got older, it kind of developed. Guys started getting into fights and started getting more violent, and guys started doing drugs, and then guys started selling drugs. And for me, because my home life was so unstable, I always had this, this idea that I would have control over my life one day. I'd get a job and I'd be able to earn, and I'd have my own things, and I'd have this security and safety. And the kids I was running with didn't really share that. I think they were just more, I don't know, they were more comfortable with the chaos, and I was seeking more non-chaos. I was seeking more structure. And as I got older, I got my first job, saved every check, bought my first car, and my friends that I was around, because I couldn't stay at home, I just couldn't separate myself from being out in the street with these guys. And as things progressed and these guys started doing crazier things, I was around for it. And, I'm just as guilty. I couldn't mentally separate myself. I wasn't strong enough to be like, this is bad, I shouldn't be around these guys. It was more of like a camaraderie and a brotherhood, And it spiraled. I never stole cars, I never carried guns or anything like that, but my friends were stealing cars and carrying guns, and I was riding around in the cars with them, just trying to hang out and be a part of the community. And then it kind of came to a point when 4th of July 2007, a friend of mine was out in the street screwing around. We're in a big group hanging out in this apartment complex, and my friend gets into an argument with somebody in a car, and that person gets out and he starts fighting him, and then everybody gets out of that car and starts jumping my friend. And I ran out there to go help him, and in the middle of that, someone sliced my face open with a straight razor. It happened so fast I didn't even know my face was hanging up, and someone had to tell me. They were like, look at your face, and I was like, I didn't know what to do. Could have died. 32 stitches later, my dad's like, okay, we gotta get out of this neighborhood. We moved, and about a year later, I was having this moment where I still couldn't separate myself from these guys. And my friends started they were getting sent to youth camps, and they were going to jail, and they were getting sent away, and kids started dying and getting shot, and it was getting really bad. And I had this moment where I was like, I've gotten so lucky because all my friends have been taken to jail. I've always been afraid of the police. I've seen them, hurt my dad, so I've always been yes sir, no sir to the police. They have the monopoly on violence. But my friends didn't care. They would just talk shit to the cops, and they would get their asses beat and taken to jail. And I kept getting let go, and I was like, I felt right up against it. I was like, man, I'm gonna go to jail. I'm gonna end up in a youth camp, or I'm gonna get shot or something. And I realized, I was like, I have to get out of here. I have to leave. And in the middle of my junior year, they released us for winter break, and I went to the office. I got my transcripts, and I went down to the community college, and I was like, hey, I want to take my GED. I took it. 2 weeks later, I got my GED, and then I went into the Navy office, and I was like, I want to be a SEAL, and they were like, we're not taking GEDs. We can put you on a list. And I was like, well, whatever. And I went next door to the Marine Corps office. I was like, hey, I want to join. And they were like, we're not taking GEDs right now either, but we could send you to this school up the street. It's like an adult ed school. You basically test out of all the subjects. We just get you another diploma that kind of is for our requirements. and then you can join. And I did. I tested out, got another diploma, and joined in August 2008.
That's fantastic, man. So you first of all, you're running around the streets and you got this cool face scar, all right? Which means that you're just gonna get in more trouble because now you look cool. And number two, the cops all know who you are because you're like the kid with the face scar. So you can't get away with anything. There's no sneakiness anymore. I always joke around like I could never get away with anything because I've got a big metal leg. Like, I'm just like, that's obviously that guy. Like, you know. So I love that you had that moment where you were like, okay, I am riding the line of luck. I have rolled the dice so many times and now got snake eyes that you finally sort of dove in there. And I'm glad you didn't become a SEAL because then you have to write a book. But when did, it sounds to me like coping mechanism, like humor was a coping mechanism naturally for you, and so what was that like when you went into the Marine Corps? I mean, that sort of street smarts that you had and stuff like that, all of a sudden you're getting more structure than you've ever had in your life. What was that like?
Oh, it was like relaxing. It was so weird. I joined, and it was the first time in my life that I was getting 3 meals a day. I was like sleeping 8 hours a night. A lot of people don't know that, right? You get in a boot camp, and through all the chaos, they make you sleep. They're like, you have 8 hours to like rest because as soon as you wake up, we're going.
Yeah.
And I found that structure that I was looking for, and because I was like, I've been like writing and joking around and hanging out in bars since I was a kid with my dad and hearing like adult bar stories, bar jokes and stuff like that. So I've had like a little bit of the comedy thing going already. And then I join, and this chaos brings like these heavy levels of like people freaking out and anxiousness and chaos. And I came from such chaos that to me it all seemed manufactured, because it's for a certain purpose. We want to create these circumstances so we can see what people are like under pressure, break them down, build them up, and give them these tools to be okay when the shit does hit the fan. And for me, it was kind of hard not to laugh. I got in trouble for not taking things too seriously enough because it was so manufactured. Like the stakes really weren't real. I was like, man, they're gonna let us go to sleep at the end of the night, and like no matter what happens, we're gonna have breakfast in the morning, we're gonna have lunch in the afternoon, we're gonna have dinner at night. Like, this is amazing.
I'm okay with a full belly, like all.
Yeah. I was like, this is incredible. Like, this is kind of like a vacation, and we get a cool uniform, and at the end of it, I'm gonna be a Marine. Like, my mind was blown. I was like, physically it was tough. I wasn't in great shape. I wasn't in bad shape. I wasn't someone who hiked a lot, but the physical stuff, it was hard. It was definitely hard, but the mental stress of it was very. It legitimately was like relaxing. Like because it was so manufactured that I was just like, oh, like everything's fine. Like, it's so fine that they have to make it up. You know what I mean?
I'm curious, I always used humor as a moment like to break up the tension, especially downrange. And I'm curious, when did comedy become an outlet for you? I know you said it was even before you joined the service, but we all know that military humor is kind of dark, and a lot of people don't appreciate it from the outside and the things that we kind of poke fun at. I'm curious, when did that manifest for you? What was your first taste into the sort of military humor realm?
It was standing in formation for hours at a time with your buddies, and just like color commentary on anything, on the guy, the dumb recruit, or the drill instructor that makes a mistake, and where everybody else was like on edge, and didn't want to make things any more stressful. I was kind of in this place where I couldn't help but say something, because I guess I just wasn't at the level of discomfort mentally where I felt like it was going to be, I would make things worse, and it was like trying to lighten the mood, when things were bad. By the time I got out of boot camp and went to machine gunner school, which was like much more physically demanding, it really started to stem from that suffering as a group, and seeing and feeling that just like everybody's physically done, we're exhausted, it's over, but we're still moving, and somehow finding like things to talk about, comments to make, and I just always had 2 cents to add to it. Just I couldn't stop myself from bringing up things that were, I thought were silly or whatever. I just had this dialogue that was going in my head that I thought everybody had. But, as time went along, my buddies would, it was a lot of my buddies in the Marine Corps that told me, like, man, if you don't become like a comedian or something, you're kind of wasting your life. It was always just a means to, kind of just lighten the mood, bring some levity to like a situation where everybody's just like whipped and exhausted and over it and kind of like needing it.
Did you make an attempt at comedy while you were in the service, or how did that work out? Did you transition out of the Corps and make the leap? What was that like?
No, while I was in, it was mainly just like, smoke pit sessions, talking shit, and just like crazy monologues where like, you stand around talking with your boys, and then you're just like, what about this thing? And then here's this thought I had, and you go off and talk for like 5 minutes, and people are like, yo, what did you write that down? Did you come up with that? And you're like, no, I've just been thinking about it all day. And when I got out, so in 2013, when I got out, my back was messed up, and I've always been like a very like laborious, a physical worker. I really enjoy physical work. It just does something to my body. I think it helps my own like anxieties to be physical and to exert myself that way. And when I got out, I couldn't do that. Like I literally was through days when I couldn't get out of bed, and I went into depression because everybody was telling me like, hey, you're not going to be able to work hard like that anymore. You have to like pivot. You're going to have to transition into something else. And I got really scared because I was like, oh man, what now? Like I'm 23 years old, and they're telling me I'll be in a wheelchair by the time I'm 30 if I don't slow down. Like, what do I do? And I thought, I'm going to have to get into like white collar work. I'm going to have to talk to people, get into sales. And I was like, I don't know how to talk to regular people. I was, from 17 to 23, I joined the Marine Corps, and I was a street kid, and like I've been in the Marines. Like I could talk to like roughnecks all day, but like I was like panicking. Like, okay, I got to figure out these tools. I got to train myself. And I was like, you know what I should do? It'd be great. I have these notebooks. I've been writing stuff down, stories and like bar jokes and stuff for a long time. I should take one to like a comedy open mic and just get on stage and get like used to trying to talk in front of like groups of normal people and trying to like convey ideas, and things that I've written or whatever. And so I went to this little dive bar in Vegas. It's not there anymore, but a little place called Meathead's, little Detroit Lions bar. And I signed up for the open mic, and it's crazy. I've had a lot of like very scary things happen in my life, and I've never been so nervous that I almost pissed myself. And I'm waiting to go on stage, and they call like in the hole, on deck, and then you're on stage, and it's like have two people in front of you, one person in front of you. And I'm waiting, and they're like, all right, 2 more people. And I'm like, I gotta piss. So I go to the bathroom, I take a piss. And then they're like, all right, 1 more person. And I'm like, oh man, I gotta piss again. I go piss, I come back, I'm watching this comic. And they're like, all right, he's just got the light. He's got like 1 minute left. I'm like, man, I gotta pee again. Why do I gotta pee? And finally, like, I'm getting up on stage, and like, I didn't piss my pants, but I can feel myself peeing in my pants a little bit. Like, the adrenaline dump was so hard. I was so scared. And I got up there, and I didn't have like this amazing, awesome set, but I had fun. I had a good set, and it was like I got off stage, and I was like, oh my god, like that was legal, that was free, like I'm not in trouble. I didn't hurt nobody. Nobody's hurt. Like this was I'm hooked on this now. And I started doing open mics and stuff like that in Vegas for a couple of years, and I was like also working my ass off again in Vegas, and I was traveling. I was going to different states trying to do sales and stuff, and at one point I was living in my car in NorCal doing like, someone talked me into doing solar sales. The money was real good and all that. And we got there, and they were like, yeah, you have to make your own leads though. You have to go door knock. I was like, all right. So we go door knock, and it doesn't even occur to me for like 2 months that like people don't want to let a guy with a scar on his face in their front door. Like I'm trying to talk to people outside. I'm like, what am I doing? And so I was like, man, I got sacrifice and discipline. I know how to work hard. I should like take all this and do something that I like to do, that I'm good at. And I started my car up. I went home, and I got like a little shitty retail job somewhere, and I just started doing stand-up as much as I could. I was like, I want to get better at this. I want to do this. I did that for about 2 years in Vegas, and then I started coming to LA to take classes. I was taking like writing classes and improv classes, trying to grow. And I would spend the nights, the evenings, hanging out in the original room at the Comedy Store, sitting in the back, just kind of watching these guys who now are like huge stars. And I'm watching them going like, I just see them working this late night crowd, and I'm like, man, I have to move to LA. Like, if I want to get better, I have to come here. I have to be around this. I have to come and jump into this big ass ocean. And then I decided, I was like, because I owned a small condo in Vegas at the time, and I was like, I'm not gonna like pay my mortgage in Vegas and my rent in LA. I'm not gonna live with 10 dudes. I've been there, done that. So I was like, I'm gonna live in my car. So I moved out to LA, and I lived in my car for like 4 years, just, you know, taking classes out here and doing little underground shows and working. I got hired as a door guy at a comedy club like 4 days after I moved here. And it was incredible. It was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. But
like, what time can you be at work? Depends on where you let me park.
yeah, I can park on the street. I'll be there before you guys. Which then this kind of leads me into the next thing is when I got to LA, I was I was this barroom comic that had only been doing comedy for about 4 years, and Marine, grew up rough, and I come out to LA, and it's for one, it's like an industry city. Like, there's like, you come out here to get famous. I was just coming out here to get better. So like the quality of comedy, like people that were very, very good, I'm like competing, and I'm at the bottom of the barrel. Plus my content, like I talk about stuff that's pretty wild, and I wasn't. Now I'm good at it, and I can do it for just about any crowd and win them over. But I didn't have that finesse then. I was very much like learning a lot how to deliver things and really how to talk about the things that I want to talk about without like making it seem like I was trying to upset people or something. And I had this moment where I wasn't getting as much stage time as I thought I was going to get. I was like, oh man, I moved out here to grow, and I'm like people aren't booking me. I'm like, I'm not getting opportunity. What do I do? And I realized, I was like, I'm in Southern California. There's a lot of military out here. That could be my crowd. And I was like, all my buddies in the Marine Corps are the ones that told me like, yeah, you should get into comedy. You should do comedy. So I sent 400 letters out to Marine Corps units, really all over the country, but mainly targeting Southern California, being like, hey, I'm a Marine, I'm a comedian, I'll come out and perform for you guys anytime, any place for free. And I got the first show. It was Cinco de Mayo, 2018. And I went alone. Now it's like the tours become so much more. We'll get into that. But it was the first one. I went alone. I didn't know what it was going to be like. I was like, this could be weird. It could get canceled. This could suck. It was a long drive. I was like, I'm just going to go by myself and see how it goes. And I went, and I brought my speaker and all my stuff. And I ended up doing 45 minutes for 250 Marines. And they treated me like I was Dave Chappelle. And I was like, oh, this is my crowd. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is where I'm supposed to be. And it just
had you felt that connection like with other audiences like you felt with the Marines, or was it noticeably different?
Yeah, no, never. It was noticeably different, like 100%. That was everything started making sense. I was like, holy shit. I felt like man.
But you had kind of figured out how to connect with the audience at that time, right? What did you kind of figure out like how you said you could like win over pretty much any crowd now? What was the process that you kind of figured out? And then were you deploying that in front of the Marines, and then it was the content, your community, and all those things just kind of clicked?
Yeah, it was the content, it was the community, it's the audience. I mean, those guys, the demographics 17 to 25, it's all dudes. I'm a Marine, they're a Marine. A lot of it translates. They got the same type of humor. But the learning curve that I got that helped me like really deliver was just it was just like, honestly, the only thing I can say is it's just reps, like getting up on stage. It's just like the number one piece of advice you can give to anybody who's getting into stand-up is like, you can't tell anybody how to do it or how to be. Everybody's different. There's no right way to do it, but it's repetition. It's getting on stage and working it and doing it over and over and being. I mean, there's a self-awareness. You have to like see it. You have to eat shit. You have to have a crowd hate you. You have to have them heckle you. You have to watch a lot of comedians. You have to watch a lot of people go up before you and after you and see what happens. Oh, that wasn't a bad crowd. It was me because they got them. And just realizing how you're making people feel. And then in all of that, not not changing yourself too much, because then you know, you're like, oh well, I just want to win them over. I want them to like me, and then you end up like starting to write in a way that is, you know, like pandering, or can be considered like hacky, or you start trying to sound like other people because those people are winning the audience over. And you really have to like stay true to who you are, but you have to be aware enough to know what's not working, and when something does work, why it works, and how you can like capitalize on that and build upon that. And it's just time. It's, you know, 10,000 hour stuff, you know.
I just want to say here that I think it's when you do things like get in front of people and speak, and when you're writing jokes and telling jokes, so many times you're using characterizations of the truth. And I think that you know, to your point of being nervous, I've done public speaking so much, and in getting in front of a bunch of people, there's sort of like an anticipation that's not so much nervousness. But then I went to speak at my kid's school, and there's like 50 people there, and I'm about to crap myself. I don't know what it was, just like that. I think it's because it's like, this one matters. If I do something dumb up here, my kids get picked on or something, you know?
Right.
But I find a lot of the times, even when I tell my story, which does, you know, there's a little bit of tragedy to it. You know, Fallujah 2004, you know, there's some sad stuff there. But, you know, the humor and the emotions kind of sit pretty close to one another. Have you found yourself getting unexpectedly emotional on stage before?
Certainly.
When
You
you
know,
really connect with an audience or something? Like, yeah, go, yeah.
yeah. I mean, you know, most of the time it's like it is, you call it emotional, but it is like just a happiness, like this like feeling of like overwhelming, like just joy, that to have a crowd that's really good and gets you and it's going well, because the crowds aren't always good, and you know, it is work sometimes. You are up there like working, and all right, I gotta pivot. Oh, they didn't like this, or I have to address this, or someone's heck, like it is work. But you know, you do get really good crowds, and you get really good nights and good shows, and it does get like emotional up there, where you're just like, it fills your cup is what it does. You feel like very fulfilled. You're like, oh my God, like I needed this show. Like this show was a reminder of why I do this. You know, you have those,
So
and
cool.
you have more and more of those at times going on. And every time I do a military show, it's like that. Every time I leave, and I'm just like, God damn, that was exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. You know, that's where I'm supposed to be. But it depends on the crowd too, and what you're talking about. Sometimes, you know, as I've experimented, and even now in my personal life, I got a lot of weird stuff going on. But you start to tell certain stories, and you know, you take them on a ride that brings them into a little bit of like heartfelt, very vulnerable, maybe even get into like genuine sad things, and being able to bring them back up into the light and go, yeah, but also like, here's the other side of that. Like, isn't this funny how it all kind of turns out like this? So, you know, it can be a real emotional roller coaster depending on the crowd and what you're talking about.
Well, you sent out all these letters, you connected with your audience, you finally had this epiphany of like who your ideal crowd is, and you're feeding off of each other. At what point does Rapid Fire Comedy Tour come on board? How did this manifest, and why is it important?
Yeah, good question. So it you know, it started, that was 2018, Cinco de Mayo, I did the first one. And it really started as like, I want to find my audience. I want to find out who I'm supposed to be performing for. I want stage time. I want to grow. I want to develop. And then I did that first one, and it was so cool and so powerful that I was like, okay, I have to like get as many of these as I can, and I want to bring my friends along. And I started bringing comedians with me, and because I live in Hollywood, like I have access to like amazing, from like big name comics that are my friends, you know, to like guys that are on their way up, they're hungry, and those are honestly the best to me. Guys that like still have a little bit of fear in their eyes, and they're working, they're looking in their notebooks, they're nervous, they want it so bad, and I get to tap those guys on the shoulder and go, hey man, you want to get in a van on Friday and go down to San Diego and perform for like 200 Marines? And they go like, what? Like if someone would have told me that, you know, early on, I would have lost my mind. And so it became like this thing where I'm loading my buddies up into a car, and we started getting more people and loading them into vans. and driving down. And it was just like this exciting thing where we're doing these amazing shows. You know, it was just these crowds are the greatest crowds in the world. And once
just to clarify, you'll just get in a van if we drive up.
Yeah, we just load a van up.
All right, let's get in the van, baby.
I'm there. Do you have room for a service dog or two? Because
yeah,
it'd be
true.
perfect.
There's plenty
Always.
So it was like very exciting and kind of whirlwindy in the beginning that I couldn't believe it was happening, and the crowds were so great. And then as I had like more awareness, and I was like, you know, you get there and you're not just like nerves and excited about like, oh, this is happening. I started to like take in what was happening with these guys, and I realized like, oh, this isn't just for me. Like, these guys are like, this isn't just like a comedy show and entertainment. These guys are like genuinely stoked that this is happening. Like you can see the morale like rise in these guys. Guys would come up to us after shows and be like, man, it has been a very long week. Like, this exercise was, man, we have not been doing well. And we thought this was going to be stupid. We thought this was going to suck. We thought this was going to be whack. And you guys rocked. Like, this was incredible. And then having like leadership come up to me and be like, man, you guys delivered. That was incredible. This was so much fun. Thank you so much for coming out. Like, we want to have you back. And I started realizing like, oh, we're like affecting these guys. Like, this is like obviously they're having fun, but like we are like really doing something more here. Like, I would have guys come up to me and be like, leaders come up to me and be like, you see those two Marines over there? They've been at each other all week. Problems, breaking them up. They've just had beef and drama all week. And at this show, I saw these guys laughing and joking together. Like, you did that. And I'm like, it never would have been like, it never even crossed my mind that was something that was going to be able to, like, you know, we would build a camaraderie like that, or you know, increase like the welfare of these guys. And then in cool. 2019, I did like a big comedy festival in Scotland. And when I came home, I had kind of been thinking on it. I was like, I should turn this into like a nonprofit or something, because, you know, maybe we could find like donors and stuff. Because like, we try to keep it as free as we can. Like, all the comics were volunteering our time, you know. Our only overhead is like renting a van and filling it with gas. That's it. So I was like, maybe we could just find sponsors, donors, things like that. And so in 2019, I filed hired an attorney to like file all the paperwork and turn it into a nonprofit. And then we got approved to be a 501c3. Sorry, I got an alarm or a siren to go by. We got approved to be a 501c3 like in April of 2020 when the country was shut down. So like, the country shuts down, and now I'm making all these cold calls to people and businesses being like, hey, this is what we do. And people are like, we can't, we're going out of business. Like, there's no money. We don't have any money. We can't help you. So it was like a bad time to try and launch it. But in time, I ended up connecting with, you know, like Vet TV, and they paid me to shoot 2 comedy specials for them, though they paid the nonprofit. And it wasn't a lot of money, but it was enough that it's enough now that, like, you know, we don't, if we didn't get any more little donations again, we could do like a couple dozen shows, and I wouldn't have to pay for it anymore. And that was the thing. It was like, I just don't want to have to. For the first couple of years, I was paying for everything, which was fine. I was living in my car. I had an excess of money. I wasn't paying rent in LA, so I was like, with my spare money, I get to go produce shows for the Marines. Like, I'm down. But I was like, if it could just be self-sustaining, you know, we can like get our website together, and that's paid for yearly, and then, you know, gas, and renting a van, and being able to, like, after a show, take the comics out to In-N-Out, stuff like that. It started to become self-sustaining, and I realized, like, all right, we're boosting morale, we're building camaraderie, we're promoting troop welfare. Fast forward another couple years, and something else started to happen because I'm pulling these comics out of Hollywood, and like, to me, I don't care who you are, where you come from, what your background is, what your orientation is in the world. If I watch you on stage and you're funny, and I go, oh, the Marines would like this, like you're good, I bring you out. I don't care who. It doesn't matter what's going on in your head, or your life, or sex, gender, race, none of that stuff. And I started bringing all these different types of people to these Marine Corps bases to perform for these Marines. And I'm starting to realize that I'm exposing young men and service women to like like, it's weird to say, like, even now, just to say it out loud, but like I'm exposing them to like a culture, like new culture, and new points of view and perspectives that they just maybe would have never gotten. But like they're 17 to 25 years old. Some of these guys, they're like they've a lot of them never even been to a comedy club, let alone be interested in stand-up comedy. I'm in the bubble. I think everybody's, oh, we all love it and everybody knows. Like, some people don't never watch a special. They don't care about it. It's such a small industry. It's getting bigger. It's bigger now than it's ever been. But I'm exposing these guys to comedy for the first time, to stand-up comedy, and I'm exposing them to like a black comedian, a gay comedian, a trans comedian, people that they just never ever would have been like, oh, this person like is funny. They made me laugh. Like, their story or their jokes got me, and now it's like really blossomed into this thing where like not only are we boosting morale and building camaraderie, but I'm like in a position where I'm exposing these service members, these young people, to like a culture and art. Like, and then obviously that's what's happening, but I just never considered that, like, yeah, this is art and that's part of it. You're like broadening people's minds and giving them like things to understand that they couldn't have in another way,
Well, that makes me curious. I'm sorry, go ahead, Joe.
No, I think what's interesting about that is that you saw what it did to you in your life, and then you got to see the impact it had on the people around you, and the people, your audience, the Marine Corps, and then you're like, I want to give this to other people. So essentially you're turning into like a comedy drug dealer, where you're just like trying to get more and more people to deal it out. But I think it's great because you took this thing that gave you purpose and peace, and you're sharing it with other people, and you're using your platform to lift other people up. And I think that's a very service-minded thing to do. I think that's a very service-minded mindset to say, hey, I can use this to improve and give other people purpose. And so because of that, how does your humor translate between, like, when you talk to civilian crowds, I'm sure it shifts your comedy a great deal. How, the inverse, how do you bring civilian comics in, and how do they find that common ground with your military crowds?
Yeah, when I bring these guys, a lot of these guys are like now I have a group that I usually like keep with me, and then I always try to bring a couple of new guys every time. I always try to bring a new comic out when I go. But these guys are usually pretty nervous, right? I mean, I don't think about it. I mean, the first show I did, I was nervous for the Marines, but now it's I can do it with my eyes closed. It's just I have so much like confidence in what I can do for these guys. But when I bring out these comics who have never come, they like, we drive in a van, so like the anticipation of like, oh man, we're going to a military base, and then we get out there and like we're out in the field, and there's a couple hundred Marines, like they just got done with a training exercise. They all have guns, they're dirty, they're talking shit, they're kind of pissed off, they're in a bad mood, but I go out there, I set up my speakers, I set up the spotlight and all that, I get some music going, so the vibe, you kind of see guys like, need some good music playing, you see the vibes change a little bit, they're like, okay, what's going on, this be a show, okay, all right. That's another thing too, a lot of times the leadership won't tell the guys, hey, there's a comedy show, they're just like, all right, tonight, we're going to have a thing for you guys, and then so nobody kind of knows what's going on sometimes. And then, we make an announcement, all right, come in, get in here tight, bring it in, guys, you come in, school circle, and now there's 200 Marines sitting in the dirt looking at you, with their guns still in their hands, and now the sun's going down, and you're on this base, you're like in front of a mountain town. So these guys, these comics, rightfully so, get like, they get in their heads. I see it happen. I see the new guys get scared, and it's exciting because I go up first. I host these shows, and I do a great job of like, yo, what's up? Welcome. This is what's going on. This is who we are. This is what I've been doing. This is why I do it. And then I transition into like my set, and I start doing jokes, and I crack them. I do the cold open. I warm these guys up, and the comics that I do bring know me. They know my comedy. They see me perform. So them watching my set, watching me talk with these guys, they start to get a little more of that confidence. They go, okay, all right, okay, I know now, and I think I have a better idea what jokes I want to do and how I can do it, and they get their confidence, but they get up there and you can see, like, everybody, I'm so aware of it, but like you can see when someone's like nervous on stage, or comics, like, especially when your buddy's like material and you see them go up and you can watch them like nobody else knows. The Marines don't know, but you see them pivot. You go, oh, they switched jokes, or they bailed on that joke and they went to another one. And it affects them. It builds their confidence up a lot too, because I mean, once you go perform for 200 Marines, you come back to LA and you're like, oh, these crowds, like this is a layup now. Like the pressure, man. I was in the dark with guys who had guns in their hands, and
Right.
now,
We don't think you're funny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That would be the ultimate heckler, right, Michael?
yes.
So I'm curious. You're doing these shows for active duty military. Have you thought about going to American Legions and bringing this to the veteran community?
Yes, yeah, no, and honestly, that's where I'm at right now. In Hollywood, there's an American Legion out here, and they do some comedy shows and stuff. But I'm at a place right now where I'm at a place in my life where I'm getting older. I turned 35 this year, and I'm living in LA, and I work like a bunch of jobs, doing production. I still have a food and beverage job. I'm out here hustling, just trying to chase the dream. And end of this year, I kind of took it upon myself to be like, all right, I wanna do this full time. I want to, not even full time, but like I just want to do more of this, and the only way I can do it is like leaning into what I'm already doing, and doing more of these military type shows, and trying to expand into the military community that is also like, a lot of guys get out of the military and they become first responders, So I'm trying to get into that as well, but the problem is the only way I get these shows is through letters. So my whole goal is like to do a podcast run and get on and share the story and help people find out who we are, and that they can have us come out and do a show. And now I try to keep all the shows free. I still send these letters out, and it's like, hey, like our expense is transpo. You guys throw together a couple $100, it covers our transpo. But even if you can't do that, we'll still come out. Like it doesn't matter. We'll come out. But as I want to do more and more shows, I'm trying to find this balance of like, all right, one, this also, not one, but two, this also is like a way to like, find sponsors and donors. People hear it on here. They know they can go to the website and donate and things like that. But the main step one is just getting more shows. Like really, I just want to do more shows, and I'm hoping that people will see this, and whether it's like some sort of group that's another thing. The American Legion, like you could throw a show there and be like, all right, we're gonna have a show, and they'll tell their people and all that. But more often than not, it's groups and other organizations and associations that are having events at American Legions, and maybe they want like a guest speaker or a storyteller, or they just want entertainment for a night, whether it's a holiday party or a company party or a celebration of some kind. And in theory, they would be like, okay, we heard about this guy on and maybe he'll come out, bring a couple comics, and put on a show for us. So that's the plan. Is I would love to do more stuff with all types of like organizations and groups, and not just active duty military. I want to do more shows, but we just got to find out who we are, and ideally in the long term, be able to set it up, find groups that have funding, they have budgets for entertainment, so that I can do this full time and still pay my bills. I'm not out here trying to get rich. I just want to do shows and pay my bills.
Well, look, you came here today and you put it out into the universe, and so this intention is gonna propagate through the digital ecosystem. And look, if you're out there and you got your event coming up, reach out to Michael. You can reach him at rapidfirecomedytour.org. He's ready to hop in a van and come to the right event. And I think these things are just going to naturally continue to build. Michael, like you were talking about, kind of from the streets of Vegas, into the service, into LA, and just trying to find that thing that really sings to your soul, and then getting to really find your way to give it back to the community that means so much to you, and have a lasting and significant impact, even when it's something as simple as a little bit of laugh and humor between all the things that pulled us, in that fight or flight, response system. And you're being able to break in between that, and curate that, and also bring other folks along, for the ride and the journey. So you really are a maestro, probably more than you realize, being able to conduct a little bit of a symphony and orchestra under the guise of comedy and entertainment. That's a special skill. And I think that 2026 is going to be a big year for you. Hopefully some folks listening will reach out and send you some letters to be able to come and support the things. We really appreciate the time that you spent with us today, walking through it all, sharing a little bit of your journey. And again, check out rapidfirecomedytour.org to learn more about Michael's work and tour schedule. Thank you guys so much for visiting us today. Alpha, stick around for some scuttlebutt after the break.
In precision marksmanship, you compete against one of your most formidable opponents, yourself.
It's different than other sports, but it's also a lot of discipline. I definitely love the intensity and the challenge. I think that has also helped me come out of my shell because we go to so many different places, meet so many new people.
You gotta make sure that you're always there in the game at all times. It's nice to have like that sort of head-to-head competition.
So just get involved. We'll teach you how.
All right, Alphas, we hope you had a fantastic break. What you got for us, Miss Stacy?
It's time for the Reddit rabbit hole.
Fire in the hole.
I wanted to look at a thread that I stumbled upon that asked a simple question. Is it worth joining the American Legion? And honestly, what followed was one of the clearest snapshots of the generational divide in the veteran community. One vet said that they got a letter urging them to claim unused benefits if they paid for a Legion membership, and they wondered what they actually got in return besides a magazine they'd never read. Another vet jumped in with the bigger picture groups like the American Legion are the ones lobbying Congress on behalf of us. Their power comes from numbers. When they say, we represent hundreds of thousands of veterans, lawmakers listen. That alone made some people reconsider, especially vets in states where benefits are, lagging hard. But then the conversation shifted to the real issue, recruiting younger veterans. One Legion executive admitted their average member age was over 70 and asked how to attract vets in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. The responses were brutally honest. A lot of younger vets said the same thing. They don't want to drink, don't want smoky bars, and aren't looking to hang out in spaces that feel stuck in the Vietnam era. No offense against our Vietnam era veterans. But they want family-friendly events, recreations, volunteer work, game nights, trivia, hiking, and maybe even softball leagues. Basically, something that looks more like MWR or USO than a dive bar. Others pointed out real barriers like substance abuse recovery, mental health, family time, and the need for healthy environments. Many said they miss the camaraderie, but it has to be built in ways that fit modern life. One standout takeaway: the posts that are seeing progress focus on community, bringing in recruits and their families early, like right after they enlist, or even when they go to MEPS. These American Legions are going and reaching out to those family members and supporting their loved ones during that veteran's military service. It's really, really smart because the moment that they get out of service, they're going to those American Legions that supported their families. And they're supported through hosting cookouts and ball games, mentoring new vets, covering first-year dues. Like these American Legions are saying, hey, come to us after you get out of service and we got you covered for the first year. They're also making space welcoming to women and younger generations. The bottom line from Reddit, as it is, was pretty clear. Veterans still want connection. They want purpose. But if legacy organizations want younger members, they're going to have to evolve without losing their mission. I'll have links in the show notes to the Reddit topics I've researched, and there's some great feedback on there. I didn't get to cover all of it, but you should dive in. And while you're there, make sure that you follow us. We're the American Legion. Fellas?
I just want to add here that I think that one way that we have bonded as friends is building connection through purpose and through service. And so I think that those community events, I agree 100% with what you just said. That's how you do it. You get people involved knowing that they can still make a difference. We crave that. We loved our service, whether we knew it was a service when we were in, we called it service, but you don't realize that's what appealed to us, was knowing that we were part of something that made that had an effect on the whole world. So That's a fantastic rabbit hole to go down.
Why, thank you, sir.
You're quite welcome.
Joe, what do you
So,
got?
I got something great. Military myth or fact?
I saw it with my own eyes.
Dog tags had a notch in them to place between fallen troops' teeth as identification. All right, so dog tags date back to the Civil War, which I used to think was the Silver War, which sounded really expensive to me as a kid.
Platinum. The Platinum War.
The Platinum Wars? Oh no. When soldiers etched their names onto belts or me, on pieces of wood around their neck. In 1913, the Army required all soldiers to wear identification tags, and in 1917, 6 years after the 1911, which is a fantastic gun, by the way, it began issuing the first aluminum discs on chains. Notch dog tags were introduced in World War II and produced until the early 1970s. The notch was essential to hold the tag in place in the engraving machine, not for any specific battlefield use. So, in the 70s, technology evolved and older engraving machines were replaced with machines that didn't require the notch. So when looking at a statue of a soldier riding a horse, the replacement of the horse's hooves indicate how the rider fared in battle. Rumor has it, if all four hooves are on the ground, the rider was unscathed in battle. One raised hoof indicates he was wounded. Two raised hooves, he was killed. The myth is a popular one at Gettysburg and among military history enthusiasts. While most of the equestrian statues at Gettysburg seem to follow this code, Confederate Lieutenant General James Longstreet's horse has one hoof in the air, even though he survived that battle unscathed. But while Washington, D.C. is home to more than 30 equestrian statues, only 10 follow the code, according to a blog post by retired Army officer and Civil War historian Mike Nugent. I love this sort of lore behind the statues, because I've heard that my whole life and just thought it was true.
Where do these things evolve from? Like, who said dog tag notches go between the teeth when somebody dies? Like, who dreams
Somebody
that
with a
crap
gap
up?
tooth.
Some specialist.
Yeah, it was probably.
And who stood there in front of a statue of like Robert E. Lee and was like, "Oh yeah, his horse is dead. Look at that. He's got 3 feet on the ground." Where does this random stuff come from?
That was also a specialist.
Was it? It had to be. Hey, Alphas, if you've got some facts, fics, or myths, you should send them in to us, because we want to share those. We'll put them to the test.
Stuff.
All right, you ready for the buck to stop here? Veterans and military families can access exclusive discounts. Who doesn't love a good discount? From more than 650 top brand retailers who have partnered with Expert Voice, an online platform helping consumers buy with expertise. From fitness and nutrition to hunting, fishing, outdoor gear, everyday apparel, and accessories, veterans can find discounts up to 60% off, all in one place, from brands that support veterans and the military community. Members of the military community are currently saving big on brands like Oakley, 50% off, Ray-Ban, 50% off also, 40% off on Vortex, 511, and Stanley, and 30% off on Eblerstock, and hundreds more. So the discounts are obviously subject to change, but a great platform, a great spot to go out and maybe get some much needed cost savings. Will inflation ever stop? We don't know, but at least we have these discounts. Go to www.expertvoice.com and you can check out and save.
All right, Alphas, thanks for listening. Go get those discounts. Bring us your myths, and we'll do some myth busting for you. In the meantime, please subscribe to our podcast. We need your support. You can find us on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to us. Subscribe to our newsletter while you're at it. And again, send us all the mail. Send it to us, all the mail. And guest recommendations, of course. We're open to that at legion.org/Tango Alpha Lima. And we'll see you next time, Alphas. Bye.
Bye.